All right, welcome back to another episode of Phrasing FM, a podcast where I talk about languages and my experience building an app to learn them. Today, I want to talk about the language graph, which is an incredibly powerful aspect of phrasing. Phrasing works by teaching you a language through fully complex, native level sentences from day one. You can either generate these in phrasing, or you can provide us with sentences and turn them into expressions. And when you turn this text into expressions, we'll break it down into individual words and we'll connect every word to our language graph. The easiest way to explain this, and the most surface level, is let's say you have two expressions with the word dog. Phrasing knows that this is the same word across both of these expressions, and it will intelligently switch between these two expressions to make sure that you really know the word dog. You're not just memorizing it in this context, but you're actually understanding this word and you're seeing it in different contexts at the right time. And this is incredibly powerful for learning a language. I often say there's something just magical about adding two or three expressions with the same word. If I'm ever struggling with a word or a construction or a grammar pattern, I just add one or two more examples, phrasing connects them, and I swear, it's like magic. The curtain just is peeled back and you can really understand what this word is and how it works. You're no longer memorizing it in this context. It's no longer this obscure word, but it's this piece of a much larger puzzle. And just having two or three examples of it is really enough to get this unlock. You don't need 5, 10, 15 examples. Just two or three really does something different, and it really, yeah, the best way to describe it is it just unlocks it in your brain. And this is incredibly powerful, just at the surface level. But of course, with phrasing, we go much deeper than that. So we don't just connect words like dog across with each other, but we connect words to their root as well. So in English, there's I am, you are, he is, she is, I was, you were. All of these different is, was, am, where they're different conjugations of the same word or the same verb, to be or not to be. And so phrasing will link this up with the infinitive form of the verb and link up any words that use this same root. So if you know a bunch of different words in the same word family, it doesn't mean that you're going to know the word, but it means that you're probably going to have a better time learning it. So we'll actually apply some partial benefits whenever you have studied a word in the same word family. And of course, we go even further. We break down the word. Is this a compound word? Does it have multiple components to it? I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head, but a bookcase. This, if you know the word book and you know the word case, that doesn't mean you're going to know what a bookcase is, but it means that you're probably going to understand it pretty well. There's a good chance that that's going to help you understand what a bookcase is and help you learn that. And so in phrasing, we'll split it down into its underlying forms and connect it to those roots as well. And for things like Chinese and Japanese, we'll break it down into individual characters. And if you know these characters, again, you're probably going to have a better time learning the word. That doesn't mean you will know the word. Some of these compounds are crazy. Some of these conjugations in different languages are crazy. So we don't just assume that because you've seen another form of this word, you know what the real word is, but we'll link them up. And whenever you study a word in that word family, it'll boost your recall for every word in that word family, just a little bit. And this allows you to really work your way through an entire language and really just study the language as a whole. Instead of memorizing and practicing and studying these individual words, you're studying large swaths of the language at one time. And you're really learning these words as puzzle pieces of this larger puzzle. And it just makes for this incredibly effective way to study a language. It makes flashcards so much more meaningful for language practice. And really, it's hard to articulate the difference between having one word in one expression versus just having it in two. There really is an unlock or something magical. I always say there's something magical that happens when you create a second expression with the same word, because it really is hard to explain how you can struggle over a word for review after review for week after week, and then you add a second expression, and within 2 or 3 views, all of a sudden it makes sense and you're not forgetting that word anymore and it makes perfect sense to you. Or even a grammar pattern. You see a grammar pattern that just, it doesn't make sense to you. How does this communicate the information that it's supposed to be communicating? You add a couple different examples of it, and after 2 weeks, you're looking back and you're wondering, how did you ever get confused with this? How is this ever unclear? This makes so much sense. And so this is the idea of the language graph, connecting words that are duplicates in the same context with the same grammar features with one another, connecting them with their roots across all of your different expressions, connecting them with their underlying forms. If they're compounds, how do they combine together with their underlying characters in Japanese and Chinese? It really makes it stop feeling like you're learning words and start feeling like you're learning a language. So if you've been using flashcards to learn a language and you feel they're getting a little dull, or if you've tried flashcards in the past and found they just weren't for you, consider giving phrasing a shot. It really does bring the language to life, and I think they're going to be something that you'll really enjoy. And again, if you struggle with any word or any grammar pattern or anything just is not clicking, try adding a second expression, try adding a third expression. You'll be amazed at what a difference it makes. So thanks for listening, and tune in next time. Ciao.